And the agenda item is government funds budget workshop. Well, that's a surprise. And take it away, Dallas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you mentioned, tonight is our governmental funds budget workshop. This is the third workshop we've had this year for your fiscal year 2027 budget. I have a PowerPoint to go through with you tonight. So as always, we'll start with commission considerations and budget assumptions. These are the things that the budget before you tonight is based upon, and then the items that we're going to be looking for feedback from the commission on. So, of course, revenue diversification, always looking at new ways to diversify our revenue, bring in additional funds to the city, become less reliant on property taxes. Of course, with property tax reform on the November ballot, that's more important than ever. Proposed millage rate, staff's balanced budget this evening is based off of a millage rate reduction of 5.8500 mils. Fire assessment, we are proposing an increase in the fire assessment to $400 for residential. Roads maintenance assessment, as I mentioned at the last workshop, last year the commission directed us to do a roads maintenance assessment study. We have completed that study and we will have a presentation for the commission to consider in October. You can't implement the assessment for your current fiscal year 27. So the earliest you could implement that would be fiscal year 28. But as I mentioned, we'll have the consultants here in October to give you a presentation on the study and the next steps if you want to proceed. Solid waste increase, we're proposing a modest 1.5% rate increase on your solid waste rates. That's a 35-cent a month increase to your residential rates. Departmental restructure, as the commission's aware, there's been a restructure in our departments that has put some additional costs in the general fund, so we do show those costs in this year's budget. Comprehensive review of rates and charges, as I mentioned at the last several workshops, as part of the budget process this year, the manager directed all the department heads to take a really hard look at the fees that they're charging for their services to ensure that we are covering the cost of those services to the residents who are demanding them. So I don't have a lot on that in the workshop presentation tonight. Where you will see that is when we bring forward the fees and fines schedule as part of your budget adoption. There's a lot of changes in there. Not a lot of big changes, but there are changes to most of the fees that we're charging in that attempt to make sure we're fully charging those costs. Personnel expenses, as always, we're going to talk about staffing levels, market benchmarking, and then our capital improvement program. So, as the commission may be aware, our population is increasing. We have increased from 5,200 people in 2014 to 9,500 in 2025. So that'll be what your budget's based off of for next year. We take this into account when developing your budget. We had about a 4% increase in population this year. So that 4% directly falls through into your expense budget and your revenue budget as we need to supply those services to those increased number of customers. Taxable property values. Our taxable property values continue to increase, especially as we're adding more and more commercial to our tax rolls. This year, we're just shy of $1 billion in taxable value. So we've definitely seen the fruits of our labor in terms of the commercial value. As a reminder, should the property tax reform pass in November, our taxable value will drop to about where we were in 2021, 2022. So the last several years of those increases will be removed from our valuations. Millage rate by year, just as a reminder for the commission of where we've been in terms of our millage rate for the last decade plus. We last had an increase in our millage rate back in 2018. Prior to that, it was when we converted from the MSTU for law enforcement to the contracted law enforcement. But since 2018, we've either kept the millage rate the same or reduced it, and we're happy to bring you a proposal tonight that, again, reduces the proposed millage rate. So looking at the big picture in terms of your general fund, your ad valorem taxes at that 5.8500 millage are just above $5.5 million, up about 12% from last year's $4.9 million. Again, that has to do with the increased valuations and the new properties coming onto your tax roll. Your other revenues are up about 5%. That's just right in line with where we're seeing population growth and CPI. So your total revenues are up 7.5%. Your expenses are up 5%, so right in line. And we are projecting a balanced budget of just over $15,000 in surplus. The the deficit you see in the current year's budget is us using some of our reserves for some capital projects and some rollover projects from prior years. So we did have a structurally balanced budget in the current year. So as I mentioned, revenue increases are primarily driven by the ad valorem increase, fire assessment increase, the slight adjustment to solid waste, and then some grants. Did get good news earlier today that a couple of commission meetings ago, you guys approved us to apply for a rural business development grant. And this morning, the USDA told us that we have received that grant. So we were awarded a $48,000 grant this morning to continue our progress at the Ag Tech Park. In expenditures, your increases are your CRA transfer. As the valuations in the CRA increase, the transfer from the general fund to the CRA corresponds to that. Solid waste rate increases. Property insurance, commissions purchased some more properties this year. All those properties need to be insured, so there's some property insurance increases. Your normal employee wages, new positions, and then grant projects. And the budget does include the $50,000 commission contingency fund that the commission's directed us to include in previous years. So here's again a big picture of your general fund revenue. Again, primarily driven by property taxes. 35% of your revenue in the general fund is property taxes. Your next largest income areas are your other taxes, your charges for services, and your fees and assessments. Where does the money go? Primarily in your general fund, your money is spent on public safety. That's your law enforcement contract, your fire department, your building department, your code enforcement department. Take up about 40% of your general fund expenditures, followed by public works, streets, roads, parks and recreation, and then you have all of your administrative departments as well. So in terms of revenue, as I mentioned for millage, your gross taxable value this year is just shy of $1 billion at $966 million. We added a new taxable value of $53 million this year. It's a 12% increase in taxable value from last year. Your rollback rate is 5.5515 mils. As a reminder, the state law changed this year, so any millage rate you adopt higher than your rollback rate will require a supermajority of the commission. That's 4 out of the 5 of the commissioners to adopt. It's no longer a simple majority to adopt over that rollback rate. So again, as we talk about every year, you save our homes. This year the cap is 3%. And as I mentioned, your budget for you tonight is at a slight budget millage reduction of 5.8500 mils. And this chart below shows you if you wanted to adjust your millage, what your different options are. Remind the commission that you did set a maximum cap of 6.0000 mils, so you cannot adopt a millage higher than that. If you decide to, you can't. Save Our Homes, I won't spend a lot of time on this because I talk about it every year, but just as a reminder to the commission and the public that the Save Our Homes cap is a constitutional amendment that was adopted about 30 years ago that limits the amount that your assessed property value can increase every year to 3% or the CPI, whichever is lower. This year it's at 3%. Does not include additions made to your property. So if you add a pool, do a room addition, that's not included, but your base value of your home cannot exceed a 3% increase annually. So just as a point of reference for Newberry, we have about $50 million in deferred taxable value because of Save Our Homes, which is about $300,000 a year that we're not collecting in tax revenue. Tax dollar distribution. So everybody gets that lovely trim notice and that tax bill towards the end of the year. A lot of our residents think that that whole tax bill funds the city of Newberry. As the commission's well aware, we only get about a quarter of those taxes. Majority of it's going to the school board in Alachua County. A quarter of every dollar you pay on that tax bill comes to the city, and then about 10 cents of the rest goes to the library district, children's trust, and the water management district. In comparing yourselves in terms of millage rate to our peers within the county, with the exception of Micanopy, Newberry does offer the lowest millage rate of all the cities in the county at 5.88. The next closest city is Alachua at 6.25, and then you progressively get higher, especially when you're looking at the Waldos, Archers, and Hawthorns of the world that are all nearly maxed out or maxed out on their millage.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just once again to make the point that we're using the word city here in a very liberal sense, okay? Not every entity that's on that slide offers the full array of services that the city of Newberry offers. So when you look at that slide, I just want you to understand Newberry is able to offer that 5.88 while being a full service city, whereas some of the others up there may not provide any service to their residents, right? So just once again, reiterating that point.
So moving into fire assessment, as I mentioned, staff does propose an increase on the fire assessment to the 95.5% funding rate based off the 2025 study we had done for the fire assessment. So that is funding 95.5% of the eligible cost of the fire department through the fire assessment. So that's an increase on the residential rate from 300 to 400, and then you can see the corresponding increases for commercial, industrial, and institutional. The funding from the increase in fire assessment will go primarily to three items. The first is the funding in our plan for the second fire station. A couple of meetings ago, the commission gave direction for us to start planning for that second station expansion. So increasing our fire assessment here allows us to start putting money away for that future station. Allows us to start having a funding mechanism as well to start paying for costs related to that station. So if a piece of property comes available that we want to purchase, we have a funding mechanism. If we need to start doing engineering, designing, those sorts of things, we have that mechanism in place. Secondly, I think probably more importantly to the fire chief, is adding the third shift relief position. Currently, we have 3 shifts. 2 of those 3 shifts have a 5th person on shift, which allows for better staffing, better service to our community. More importantly to me as your finance guy is if someone calls out on that shift, we don't have to fill it in with overtime. We've already got that person on the shift. They can fill in and still meet our minimum staffing compliance of 4 people on the shift. So this is adding the third of those 3 shifts. So we have them on 2 of the shifts. This will complete that, and we'll have all 3 shifts. We'll have 5 people staffed at all times. Well, not all times, but majority of the time. And then last is equipment and fire station maintenance needs. Of course, the fire department always has capital needs. And this year there is a relatively large capital need for a expansion of the bays in the fire station, particularly so we can move our bunker gear out of the exhaust bays, out of where we put the fire trucks into their own dedicated space. The importance behind that is if you have all your bunker gear in the bays, they're being exposed to carcinogens and to the things on the fire trucks and those sorts of things. And as the fire industry, and we work towards protecting our firefighters better from cancer and those sorts of illnesses, moving them into their own dedicated space is the direction in which we need to move.
Before we leave that slide, so the way that we have treated the fire assessment in the past is we have tried to overcome the increasing costs for salaries, healthcare, those kinds of things with a $25 a year increase. As the commission is well aware, last year we had to go $100 because we had missed the 3 previous year of increasing $25 at a time. That $25 at a time is no longer keeping pace with inflation and the costs. So the proposal this year, what I'd like the commission to see it as, because that's exactly how it is we are asking for a $50 increase to cover those inflationary forces, cover the third shift, those kinds of things. I would also say that third shift, it has overtime implications, so it's not a 1-for-1 because when they're out, it also has burnout implications because when firefighters are out, they're often out with injuries that take weeks for that firefighter to come back. That means that the other folks have to pull more shifts than they're used to pulling. The other $50 is to begin planning and working towards the second station, the fire expansion, the training facility, all of those kinds of things. So from here on out, I just need the commission to be aware that unless something happens in the national state economy, the $25 increase is no longer going to cut it. If November happens and property taxes go away, the fire assessment will be the primary source and vehicle to fund the fire department. So we're going to continue to monitor that rate and that amount because it is a difficult to challenge for us. So that's what staff is proposing here. It is a $100 increase, but it's $50 to cover the increases in operations, $50 to go make all the things happen so that 5 years from now, which is a good timeline, but it's actually kind of a tight timeline, we will be opening that second station.
So I got a question. What would be the lowest that we can take the fire assessment and still make budget? And also, if we were to take our millage to 5.9 or back to what it originally was to cover those same costs?
Mr. Chair, each dollar in your fire assessment generates about $4,100 in revenue. So a $20 increase in your fire assessment or change in your fire assessment equates to about $80,000 in swing one way or another. In your millage, each tenth of a mill is about $90,000. So you could swap every $20 of fire assessment with about a tenth of a mill in millage. Now, the caveat there being you can only increase your millage another 0.15 mils, so you can only go up about $140,000 in millage to recoup it. The baseline budget, if we reduced some of the capital out of the budget, particularly the fire closet, I figure a better name for it, but the expansion for the bunker gear. That's about
Cancer prevention closet, how about that?
cancer prevention closet, the
closet.
CPC. If we reduce the cancer prevention closet, that's about $80,000. So you could reduce your fire assessment by $20 and still be whole, or and reduce the closet. If you wanted to reduce it by $20 and then make up for it in millage, you could also do that. Or you could say, we don't want to build the closet this year, and we could reduce both. The commission will need to vote for the final fire assessment at your next commission meeting on August 24th.
Well, I know the closet is a necessity. I don't think that's something we should adjust with, but trying to adjust the millage and the fire assessment, me personally, I would hate to go up another $100 if possible, because I know how much of a bite that took off last year for citizens. So if we can kind of keep from going up another 100, I would, and try to find another creative way. But we need that closet for the fire department for safety wise. We definitely want to get that, but find more creative ways to get to that.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to say I appreciate that feedback, because that's exactly the kind of feedback we need in this workshop, right? Is what are the principles and goals that you guys are trying to hit? Then I can take that back to staff in the intervening and say, okay, this is what we heard. What can we give? What can we take? How can we get where the commission's trying to get to?
Mr. Manager, can you explain the closet thing to me? That's a new.
I cannot, but I'd be happy to bring the chief up because I think any of my attempts would probably woefully be wrong. I'm not a firefighter or a nurse or a scientist, and I'm not going to try to explain cancer to an actual nurse. So go ahead, chief.
What we're proposing is a little bit more than a closet. Bless you. Okay. Woke us up there. We have pretty much taken over our gym space with another dorm room. We did not have any exclusive female quarters. We're trying to convert our gym into a space that's a little bit more privacy for that and add 2 dorm rooms in there. Right now, there's just 1. And it's not quite finished, but it's functional. So to supplement that, we proposed this addition that would include a gym, some storage space, and our bunker gear. One of the larger findings that came along with the cancer prevention initiatives in the last 10 years or so is that bunker gear accumulates particulate in very sensitive spaces, and it causes colorectal, testicular, ovarian, thyroid cancer, and those are some of the most prominent cancers in the fire service now. We have members that are currently, they're not receiving treatment yet, but they are being monitored for work-related cancers that were detected through last year's LifeScan physicals that you funded in last year's budget, and hopefully will continue in this year's. So this space is a little bit more than a closet. We need to get the bunker gear out of the bay. We need to do everything we can to prevent cancer. We've made great strides through your initiatives in the past to fund exhaust extractors, large washing machines that we can do our bunker gear, and second sets of gear, particulate hoods, other things that are generally recognized as the prime initiatives to do everything that we can to reduce the cancer risk. And this is one more step.
I mean, when you come in from a fire, I mean, do you wash the gear, or what do you?
Yes, every one of our members, it's also bargained in their contract. They have 2 sets of bunker gear issued to them. So after a structure fire, They take off that one contaminated set, they bring out their other set that's in storage, put that in service while they rotate through. We built a gear dryer to speed that process up. Recently, we cobbled it together out of a whole bunch of different materials in a bounce house blower. But it dries the gear in a matter of hours rather than days. Those are things that we were able to do in-house for very little cost.
And that's not sufficient to clean the gear of any particulates?
I believe it was, that's just for drying. 3 years ago, maybe 2, you received a grant for a washer extractor, which is a large, heavy-duty washing machine, and that removes the particulate from the gear.
But that's after the fact. Then you put it back into the bay where it could gain particulate. again.
Yes, the exhaust capture does a great deal of the heavy lifting for removing that exhaust particulate out of the air in the truck bays, but just the presence in the truck bay, there's always something running in there, whether we're testing our tools, our gas-powered equipment in the morning, or a hose has a leak, or anything mechanical is prone to failure. So these exhaust systems do go down from time to time.
Chief, can you speak to the presumption of job-related exposure for firefighters?
There was legislation passed, I believe it was 2 cycles ago, pretty much there were, I think, 16 different cancers identified, that if it occurs in a firefighter while attached to a department, it's considered, the presumptive legislation considers it job-related. And it falls under workers' compensation for treatment, and also there are some other benefits that go along with it.
Is all that covered by our insurance, or how does that work, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Chair, yes, our workers' comp insurance covers a lot of that. In addition, we have a separate cancer policy for our firefighters that we issue that covers the city's liability from cancer presumption claims.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
To give you just a snapshot of where we are in comparison to our peers, betwixt the other cities, we are right in the middle. As you can see, this year we're at 300. High Springs has indicated that they're increasing their fire assessment to 383 this year. Alachua County and Gainesville are not adjusting their fire assessments, but as you can see, there's quite a variation in how different cities allocate their fire assessments and how they work in terms of commercial and industrial as well as residential. Newberry and High Springs use the flat model. Alachua County and Gainesville have different methodologies for assessing there, so it is kind of difficult to compare an apples to apples, but this gives you just a snapshot of some different commercial areas and then different valuations and square footages.
Mr. Chair, remember that Newberry and High Springs have their own fire department. Archer uses the county, Alachua uses the county. So wherever you see county, that's what the citizens in the city of Archer or city of Alachua are paying for a fire assessment.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I thought High Springs shut theirs down because they couldn't afford it.
No, they decided to.
Well, I'm serious.
That was a conversation. I think it's been a conversation for the past 2 years. They are still trying to move forward. I think they just voted to take their fire assessment to
383, which is the maximum amount they are allowed.
So
their
our maximum is 419. They just voted to go to the max, and
with the understanding that they're going to redo their study again this year.
so they can go.
They
up
also
again.
had additional layoffs. Chief may be able to give some better examples, but I know they reduced their staffing. I think they're down, is it 3 staff per shift now? They've had a variety of different cuts to their fire department.
Yes, from what I understand, and don't quote me on this, they have reduced their daily staffing levels. They also are without a permanent fire chief. They're looking for one right now. They have an interim fire chief. They were running 2 trucks, and from what I understand, they're only running 1 truck at a time right now.
Wow. Do they, what is it, the ambulance, is that through Alachua County or do they have their own?
Yes, sir. Station 20, I believe, is their closest ambulance.
Okay.
Are they, is High Springs still ALS?
They are ALS responder, much like us, but they're not transport.
Who all has their own fire department? Newberry, High Springs, and Gainesville? Are they the only 3 in the whole county?
There's Melrose, they have a combination department. They have, I'm not I'm not positive of their structure, but they have a volunteer and a few paid folks, and they are supplemented by the county as well.
The only cities with full-time professional departments are ourselves, High Springs, and Gainesville.
Correct.
And then the other cities either have it through the county or don't offer the service.
Yeah. I'm kind of with Commissioner Long on this. I think we're beating up our citizens by increasing this fire assessment fee. I mean, we increased it $100 last year and $100 this year and proposed for $50 per year going forward.
That we only do budgets 1 year at a time. So my comment there is to just let the commission be aware that $25 is not keeping up with the costs that every single department. It's why High Springs is going from 250 to 383 and redoing the study. So because they know that 383 isn't going to cut it. So it is part of our ongoing conversation. We only do budgets 1 year at a time. I don't know what next year's budget is going to look like. I just know that $25 is not cutting it to keep up.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I completely agree with the manager. However, we are capped at 419 unless we redo the study. So even if the commission wanted to go to 450 next year, you cannot go higher than 419 with your current study. So before we increase it above 419, we would need to redo our fire assessment study.
We're falling behind Marion County. I think they're offering a $10,000 or $15,000 sign-in bonus to join. I know you've got people in a different county you're telling about they're already on the 1 day on, 3 days off and paying more.
Well, and that's
we're
a great
paying.
point. We also have union negotiations coming up this year, where we'll be renegotiating our contract with the fire union. So we don't know what that will entail in terms of impacts to your budget.
With the increase in the housing and the increases in the business, and that's new revenue coming in for the fire assessment, and that doesn't cover.
It helps. That's what keeps it in that range. If it wasn't for that growth, we would be having the same conversations that some of our sister cities around us are having. What I preach every time I get the opportunity, the growth of Newberry is what's keeping the cost, the millage, these things in a reasonable reach and allowing us to still provide the same level of service. When you look at the cities around us these services are collapsing, it's because they have not been willing to take the steps that this commission has in order to keep up. And so they're either having to do a great big leap, right, or they're having to do multiple big leaps across the board, or they're having to throw their hands up and continue spiraling.
Mr. Mayor,
Gainesville seems to be doing okay.
Who?
Gainesville.
Mr. Mayor, to the point about the new growth, generally the new growth in the fire assessment just goes to cover the continued level of service. So every year the fire union contract requires pay increases. Our workers' comp insurance goes up as it relates to those pay increases. The cost of running the fire service goes up. So the new houses essentially just cover those increased costs of offering the same level of service. The new request this year is for these additional things, like the manager said, the future second station, these third shift compliance, the expansion of the station for what is not a closet. If the commission doesn't want to do those things, then we could come in and much lower ask for your assessment. But if you want to continue forward with the second station, like the commission gave us direction, add that third shift and expand the station to add that additional storage space, that's where we need that additional increase in the fire assessment.
When are they meeting again? When's the union
We'll start union negotiations in the spring.
in the spring? Can they strike?
No.
Then why have a union?
They
Forget
have-
it. Don't even go there. I don't. Skip.
Well, the other unanswered question here is onboarding of commercial, right? As to your point, Gainesville, once you reach a certain size, economies of scale, and you're continually bringing in more commercial, that's what makes it difficult and why we only do budgets year to year. If we get another public size, right? If we get Highland Park filled out, right? Those things change the metric to some degree, right? We're still in that sort of transitionary stage where we've got residential houses, and as you guys know, I know it's not a very popular sentiment, but the taxes that residential pays helps, offsets, but it's the commercial that really comes in and helps alleviate the increases that you're asking for on the residential. And Publix is just gonna have a full year under its belt. It'll be a tax-paying member of the city of Newberry in this upcoming fiscal year. So it really depends on when they get their CO, when they open up, when they start paying taxes. So that's why it's very important for us to continue working with these folks and making sure we get that commercial joining our community instead of another person's community.
I would also point out that Gainesville's millage is nearly a full mill higher than our millage.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And that number amount is twice.
I mean, can we do like a combination of millage and fire assessment, or does it all have to be fire assessment?
Well, I believe that's what Commissioner Long's
Yeah.
question was. Now, again, this year, you can only raise your millage of another 0.15 mils. So if the commission is, if that's what you want to do, you can raise your millage to 6 mils, and we could reduce the fire assessment. That's absolutely a valid
Going to
direction. Now, it will
6
require, again, there's only 3 of you here tonight. It will require 4 of you to do that.
Going to 6 mil, what would that take the fire assessment down roughly?
370-ish.
Yeah, I can go along with that.
Yeah.
I'll run the real numbers for you, but
Tenth
yeah.
of a mil is 90.
Yeah.
$20 is 80. So that's how I kind of split the difference. So it's in that range.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I tell you, there's a whole lot of unhappy citizens last year when we raised the,
That was my first
fire
rodeo.
assessment. And you're gonna raise it again by another 100.
Yeah, I want to try to prevent.
You might have a new commission up here next year.
They also, with the assessment on commercial, so.
Well, that's why I appreciate the feedback, because I think we can go back and say, if the commission is willing to do a compromise with a little bit of millage, taking a little bit off, I will say, whatever you vote in the fire assessment, 100% always has to go to the fire assessment. It's dedicated revenue. What the fire assessment is also insulated against the property tax amendment, right? But the property tax amendment doesn't take effect in this next fiscal year. So again, your staff is making decisions based on what happens in November, but we need to make decisions right now based on what gets us through this year, because this year, everything stays the same.
Well,
Well,
yeah,
everybody's complains about the fire department till they show up at your house, you know? Or
True.
when the fire gets away from you and starts going across the pond.
true. But
Yeah,
as far
Mr.
as fire assessment versus general fund, I've lived in this city for 70 years. I've never known of the fire department not being funded either way. So even if we went back to the general fund, it's not like we're gonna say, oh, well, we don't have the money because we spent it on Commissioner Coleman's driveway or something.
And that's true, but we can bring and run the numbers again, but we gave a presentation to the commission last year. If you fund the fire department out of the general fund, it costs the homeowner, the resident, more than the mixture between the fire assessment and the general fund. Right now, the policy is 50-50, right? I'll also say we haven't always funded the fire department to the level that we should. I remember when I was elected, there was a rock holding the door closed from the outside of the fire department, which I'm pretty sure is a building violation. So we always, simply to say we fund things, yes, right? They didn't shut down, but we weren't hiring or attracting new talent for many years. We weren't preserving the talent that we had because we were not competitive. Our equipment was all built.
We have firefighters been with us for 30 years, they said the other night, so
Yeah.
apparently we're doing something right.
I didn't say we were doing everything wrong. I was
Things
just
are bad,
saying there's a
things are really
relative.
bad other places.
Yeah, there's a relative terms, when we talk about it.
This is where I'm at. If we're gonna have a fire department, I want them to have the best and I want them to be the best. That's where I'm at. So,
Yeah, I'm along with that.
the thing of it is, when it comes to the budget with the fire department, is you never hear the citizens saying, well, here, this assessment, the city's just making money. Not when it comes to the fire assessment. If everything has to go to the fire department, and I'm a citizen, I want the best to be out there. I want it where the fire's not getting all the way over to the Davises when it's going across that dry pond. Thanks, fire department.
Well,
A while ago.
And Mr. Mayor, I would say that, Dallas, the chief, and I, with this feedback, we can definitely come back with some other variations for you guys to look at.
Yeah, I believe we have clear direction. Last comment on the fire assessment is, we do need to redo the study in 2 or 3 years. If the commission at the time wants us to look at a different model, one that is more similar to the county or Gainesville's, that is not the flat structure for residential, and we're happy to hear that feedback and have the consultants look at a different model. All right, expenditures. Personnel, as we mentioned at the budget kickoff, we had minimal Florida retirement system increases. Majority of those increases were in the fire department. Special risk was the only class of FRS to increase this year. Our health insurance rates came in at a 9.5% increase. Compensation, we're proposing to keep our same compensation model that we've had for the last several years of a merit of up to 4% based off of your performance evaluation, and then a cost of living raise for all employees of 2%. The minimum wage amendment, this is the last year of the $1 per year minimum wage increase. So on September 30th, minimum wage will go to $15 an hour. Following that, every year it'll go up by the CPI as determined by the state. So of course, we're including that into our budget. And then every year we have wage adjustments, reclassifications. We look comprehensively across the organization to make sure different positions are funded fairly and equitably. So we do have a couple of changes proposed this year that you'll see in your pay and classification schedule at the budget adoption. In terms of new positions that have been requested and funded, we have 4.75 FTEs that have been approved in the requested budget. As I mentioned earlier, there was a restructure earlier in the year that'll take effect October 1st to create a Director of Public Works and Facilities position. So that position has been funded. That position is funded for a full year. All of the other positions are funded for 75% of the year, so they're funded effective January 1st. The thought process behind that is should property tax reform pass in November, we'll go back to these positions to see whether or not we actually fill them. We don't want to hire people in October and then have to lay them off a few months later because of property tax reform. So the positions that have been requested and included in the budget are related to the increase in participation and events that we are running at our Parks and Recreation Department. We just need an additional coordinator there to help manage all of those. The staffing position in the fire department, the firefighter paramedic, a parks operations supervisor. This position will oversee the grounds crews in our parks maintenance department, including Champions Park. There is not currently a supervisor that manages those crews on a day-to-day basis, so this position will oversee their work activities. An additional facilities technician to help manage our public facilities, and then a finance management analyst in finance and administration who will help manage primarily contract administration, help us put together contracts, and then assist in the budget preparation process. Additionally, there was a custodian position requested, and that position was not filled.
Dallas, or Mr. Manager, I was also wondering about the possibility of a person working or in the AMI and maybe hire someone to oversee that. I know that I've been told that the staff with Tammy and her group are much too busy to oversee that as it should be. And I've been told, you can verify this or not, they verified it. They were losing like 100,000 gallons of water per month somewhere. And I don't know whether it's a feasible thing to incorporate in this budget or not, but I
Mr. Chair,
would like,
that was included in the utility budget. However, the utility rates were not sufficient to fund that position. And then the commission at our budget workshop for utilities gave us direction to further reduce our rates. So that position is not funded based off of the rate reductions we were given.
What are we looking at salary wise for something like that?
All included with fringe and everything, you're looking at 110 to 120.
I mean, I don't know that it'd even be I mean,
I'm a believer in that position. Let me just say, it couldn't make it in this year's budget, especially with the direction that the commission gave last time. I'm a believer in it. I think that it's one of those jobs that when we finally get there and we bring an AMI analyst on, that it won't be 6 months to a year before we say, oh my goodness, we wish we'd have done this years ago. It's just kind of one of those things, trying to stay within the parameters that the commission has set for acceptable increases in rates, millage, those kinds of things. We had to make decisions. I can't promise the commission that if we bring an AMI analyst on 6 months later, we're going to say, oh my goodness. And that's why when I looked at what we needed and we knew we needed and we've been needing and what we think we need, I had to go with the things that I know we need. I'm not giving up on this position. And if the commission says, no, we're going to take a leap of faith, we'll make it happen, but we would have to revisit some of the previous direction that's been given in order to make it happen in this budget year. We can try again next budget year. But I mean, at the end of the day, those are your calls. If you say, yes, we've invested in this, it's time to take AMI to the next level, which in my heart I am, but you guys don't pay me to go with my heart, So that's just the hard truth of it.
are we paying a consultant already?
We do, but nowhere near what it would cost us to
How much are we paying a consultant now?
30, 25, 30, somewhere.
$2,500 a month.
2,500 a month, so 30,000 a year?
That's not even, that's,
Yeah,
that's, yeah.
in the budget proposal we presented, the rates that we presented did not include it. And the commission gave us direction to further reduce those rates. So we would need to go above the rates we originally presented to the commission at the last workshop.
Is there like a dual job where, I know we've done that in the past, where AMI
Yeah, I
is,
don't know that would even be a full-time job,
I
running
think
the
it's-
AMI.
yeah,
The
think it's
thought
a
process
full-time
was
job.
AMI and SCADA, because we also need the SCADA.
Right. I was just
All
saying.
of that is still in your utilities though, so it's all
Right.
utility funded.
Right.
The reason why we do it as a consultant is along the lines of that part-time. So we get a very talented person doing it part-time, right, for $30,000 a year. In order to take it to the next level, you'd have to have somebody who knows what they're doing, is able to run those reports, and then mine that data to come back to Rance and Jamie and you guys and say, here's where the savings are, here's where, and I also think when it comes to AMI, I think what we're talking about there is a service level. It may not, I think it will have financial savings. I think where you'll see the value is in the service that the residents get, which is great. But I know that what we're talking about right now, especially with the loss of property taxes, is wrapping our heads around simply having to say to residents, we can't provide that level of service. We would love to, but we can't.
Okay, I just,
Happy if the commission says, no, go fund it, again, but that decision has consequences
Yeah.
to the previous
Don't-
decision.
And I'm happy to bring back what those rate
I don't-
impacts
I
would be.
don't
at
know
the
what
next
a base-
do we
workshop.
have another app coming on board or something that,
An app?
yeah, or something that, previous commissioner had done, and he's doing an app for us? or
I know the project you're talking about, but we don't own that app. We don't have rights to that app.
We've had very preliminary conversations about.
Okay.
If it works out, we may be able to purchase that app. But
Yeah, I think it's something we should look into next year. I don't think it's something we can afford, even have the information enough to even go with it this year.
Yeah, oh, well, and the unknown is the big thing right
Yeah.
now with the, so, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I don't know what.
I would like to learn
I don't know
more
what
about
the base
it.
salary would be for that kind of position. What would the base salary be?
I think you're at
believe we were
least
saying,
at
like-
60 to 70.
I was gonna say, I think we had 75 as the. which is
Somebody with
probably not- You need
experience.
someone with IT experience. and-
I just don't have enough knowledge to say, let's go with it now. But I think
I believe,
it
again,
has a good potential. I
Right.
just don't know enough yet.
I want it. I fought for it in this budget, but I just, this budget is full of things that are empty of things that I wish was there.
Yeah,
you
'cause
know?
some of the potentials I've seen would make the services to customers phenomenal.
Yeah.
But we just have to see how that looks.
All right, if there's no more questions on new funded positions, moving into operating. I know this is brand new information for you guys, but all of our operating costs are going up because everything costs more every single day. As you will recall from the utility workshop, we had some actual examples out of our utilities. Unfortunately, I didn't really have enough time today to get some of those examples. One I did pull that is interesting and maybe a little sad is I did look at our gas purchases from year over year. Our gas costs, are, as you know, fuel prices have increased pretty dramatically over the last year. So the city and the general fund alone has spent $40,000 more this year on gas than we did in previous year. And that's not because we're buying all that much more gas. It's mostly related just to the fact that gas costs more money.
And all the commissioners get a gas card.
Yeah, really?
We can give you a gas card. There'll be no money on it, but you can get a gas card.
Who do we buy our wholesale gas from, or do we buy
Lewis
wholesale?
Oil. Lewis Oil.
They've been in business for a long time.
Yeah, and they pretty much cornered the market on the government bids in the area. They offer the lowest. All right. So that concludes the general fund. I'll move into some of your other funds. In your packet, I've provided you is our capital improvement plan for the general fund, or for the governmental funds next year. You'll notice there's not a lot that's being funded out of the general fund. Most of our projects have moved to other special revenue funds, different pots of money where we have new revenues coming in. So Wild Spaces,
Before Dallas gets into that, just for the public who's watching, remember that when we have pots of money, like this fire assessment, it can only be spent on the fire department. Wild spaces, public places can only be spent in parks. So I know you guys field questions. I field questions all the time. Y'all spent money at Champions Park. You should have paved a road. Well, you can't take that money from wild spaces to pave a road, right? So what we're moving into are things that are delegated. These are things, types of projects that these dollars are eligible for.
yeah, this is a fun fact. I don't know if anybody else thinks it's a fun fact, but when I became finance director, we had 4 funds, and today we have 29. So certainly shows how much more complicated we've become.
Sounds like an improvement to me, Dallas.
Yeah, I didn't say it was an improvement. I just said it's become more complicated. Wild Spaces, Public Places, as the manager alluded to, these are the funds from the voter-approved half-cent sales tax, can only be spent on parks and recreations projects. I won't go through all the projects that are funded in next year's budget, just the highlights. So the big projects we have next year are Courtland, which, as the commission knows, is the addition of tennis courts, a basketball court, and pickleball courts at Easton.
And all-purpose fields.
And then further down is the Easton multipurpose fields.
Sorry.
Freddie Warmack.
Wrap them all together.
Freddie Warmack Park is getting playground renovations as well as baseball field renovations, and then some renovations to the building itself. MLK Park is getting renovations both to the park and to the building itself. We have funding in there to begin the first step in the conceptual design of Champions Park South. The Easton Multipurpose Fields project is included there. One point I have on there struck through is this year, in 2026, the current budget year you're in, you're making your last loan payment on the IFAS property. As the commission may remember, a number of years ago, as part of your agreement with the county that the city would buy that property, the general fund loaned Wild Spaces the money to buy that property. So Wild Spaces has been making the payment back. So we've officially paid off that loan to ourselves. And then we have the skate park design in there as well to begin the preliminary design on the skate park. And then just as a note, your Wild Spaces funds are fully allocated through the remaining cycle of Wild Spaces.
So Dallas, on the Eastern alarm replacement, Can't we just get robbed like a bell to ring or something?
This is a fire alarm, so you'd have to talk to the fire chief about that.
We can say so. Yeah, you know, like one of those school bells. Fire!
We'll add that to your job description, Rod.
The skate park, is that gonna be built out of Easton, or is that gonna go to?
I believe it's planned for Freddie Warmack Park.
For where?
Freddie Warmack.
Frederick Womack? I hope it'd be comparable to something that they have in Gainesville when we do get it designed.
It'll be better than Gainesville.
Plan is to be way better than Gainesville.
Also,
And we won't fill ours with mulch.
Yeah.
Gainesville's gonna get a lot of complaints.
Yeah, they got one in Lawson
Well,
too.
they filled a lot of with mulch.
Oh, did they? I know Alachua has a lot of metal, which is really noisy. People don't like.
During COVID, they filled it with mulch.
I will point out, so Freddie Warmack Park, the skate park, or Freddie Warmack Park upgrades, and Lois Fort Park, we applied for FERDAP grants this year. We were listed as eligible for funding. Unfortunately, the governor cut all the funding for FERDAP out of the budget this year. But because we were listed and ranked for funding, we are going to reapply next year, hope that it gets funded. So if we do get the funding, we'll either add it to the money the commission's already budgeted and do a better project, or we can replace that funding and do a different project.
Well, I'm for changing the skate park to a water park.
well, you go
That
ahead.
cost would be a lot more.
That decision's already been made, Commissioner Coleman. I'm sorry.
Dadgummit, I want a water park here.
Mr. Coleman, I would just remind you that our fire department hosts Operation Cool Down 6 times a year.
Oh,
We invite the
okay.
children out to be splashed
Figure
down.
out Half Moon Pond, they got the water out there already.
Well, I hear might help stop some fires as well.
All right, so in the Wild Spaces Surtax Fund, you're starting with $152,000. You're gonna have some grant revenue. Remind the commission that you have $600,000 in grants from the county going towards your Wild Spaces projects. So we'll bring in about 1.3 million. Your projects are budgeted at 1.9 million. So you will end your year with a deficit balance in the Wild Spaces Fund. You'll recoup that deficit balance in the following years. The reason for that is we just have a lot of projects this year that all need to be completed this year. In your infrastructure sales surtax, kind of in the opposite direction, you're beginning your fiscal year next year in a deficit balance. As the commission may recall, you went into a deficit balance through your infrastructure sales surtax for the paving of Southwest 15th. We didn't have any projects in this year's budget or any major projects in this year's budget, so you could recoup your fund balance. But next year, you'll have recouped that fund balance. And so we have 3 projects funded. Infrastructure in the environmental park, at least phase 1, Southwest 30th Avenue Road reconstruction, and then the historic power plant.
Let's talk about that. Southwest 30th reconstruction, why are we doing that?
So when I say road, it's really filling in the hole and straightening the road out where the hole is next to 337.
Because I was thinking this, when Sandy Park comes in, they were gonna do some paving out there.
That's
Hey.
46.
Oh, it's 46, okay.
Well, it's both, right? It's both, but our part is making sure that when the road goes in, it goes straight. So our part is filling the hole in and leveling it out so that the road can go across.
Man, I used to crawl down in that big old pit. Come on, man.
That pit was owned by my grandfather, so you were trespassing?
Yes.
Is that what you're?
I don't know what you're talking
His microphone's not on, so he didn't even get it on video. Transportation impact fees, you'll have about $840,000 of funds available. Part of the purchase you just approved for the house to the south of the environmental park, we're using impact fees to buy the portion of that property that'll be used for road right-of-way. You have your second payment on the roundabout due to the county. You have your second payment for Seaboard Drive easement due to CSX. And then there's the 254th Road Extension Project budgeted as well.
How much of that roundabout did the county pay?
It's a 50-50 split, so we paid $750, they paid $750, and at the end, we true it up. I was told, I got an email earlier this week that they are gonna come in under budget, so we probably won't have to pay the full $375, it'll be a little bit less. Public buildings impact fees, you'll have about $256,000 of funds available. We're going to use a portion of that to build out the Facilities and Public Works building. That's at what is formerly known as the Pro Bob building at Easton. And then you have your debt service payment for City Hall that comes out of those impact fees as well. So that concludes all of your other funds. Two funds that are not here that I'll present at the next budget workshop are your CRA. So we'll have your CRA workshop. And then we have a Champions Park fund now that Champions Park is back in-house. And so I'll present to you your Champions Park fund as well. So that concludes my presentation. Your next steps are at your next commission meeting on August 24th, you'll adopt your final fire assessment rate. We'll make sure you have all of that information to make that decision. And then our next budget workshop is going to be September 9th. That is Wednesday. I believe it's 3 weeks from tonight at 6:30. That'll be the wrap up with all the information and the full budget for you to consider for your final budget adoption at the first and second hearings in September. And Mr. Chair, that concludes what I have for you tonight.
Gentlemen, you have any questions?
No, I think we gave a good bit of direction, so
Okay,
about all I got.
I have one. What is the park enhancement program? What does that mean?
The park enhancement program includes adding new park benches, adding trash cans, receptacles, those sorts of things to our
I
parks. So
mean,
every year we
it's
have a
only
little bit.
12,000. I was just kind of wondering what
Yeah.
that was.
So we use it, if we need to add some fence somewhere, those sorts of things.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the audience? Seeing none?
Wait a minute,
Oh, your light's on.
I got one thing. How much was the water park?
The last time we priced a water park was 5 to 7 years ago. I want to say a decent one was between 800 and 1.2 with an average annual maintenance cost anywhere, depending on what went wrong, between 50 and 100,000.
So, okay, I'm gonna rescind what I said earlier then, because we can't afford that.
Well, skate parks, one, they have one out from the public, right? The splash park, I remember you guys were part of this, robust community conversation for years. They're great for toddlers. And then after you're 3 or 4, you're kind of done with the splash park. Skates parks, I went to one in Ocala. There were 3 and 4 year olds. There were teenagers there. There were a couple of people in there what looked like mid-20s. There was a guy there that was clearly 60 years old. It was a Tuesday morning. It was heavily used. Once it's there, not saying there's zero maintenance, but it's concrete. You blow it out and you're good to go.
And what's our liability looking at, with a skate park or a pool? I mean, are we gonna go up?
Don't
big
say the
time?
4-letter word. Don't say
The
it.
liability with a pool is pretty high because you have to staff it with lifeguards and trained lifeguards and lifeguards of special risk. With a skate park, it's more minimal because as long as it's like with any other park, as long as you have proper signage and it's properly maintained, you're fine. The pool gets a little bit hairier.
But Mrs. Hectus would really like a pool. So
Yeah, if we open a
you ever
pool,
start
she's gonna
talking
be
about,
the
well, you got a
aquatics
fan right there. She'll.
Mrs. Hectus was qualified to go to the Olympics, I believe, at one point in swimming, almost.
Well, if it keeps funding the fire department, we'll have our splash days. So
Yeah.
You do not want to play in that water.
nah, I'm good.
Mr. Manager, you got anything else to add?
No, sir.
Ms. Clerk? All right. This meeting is adjourned.